There we go, there's that. There'll be a few minutes, so bear with and all that fun stuff. I don't know. Let's see if we can, I don't really like that. Let's adjust that a touch. I like putting second cam on, actually. Meh, I don't know. Not normal broadcast, so maybe I should. Seeing as I can isolate that a little bit better. Let's do that. Let's switch cameras. Okay. Add source. Device, video. Let's go to the more primitive camera. Ooh, shit, that's fucking bright. Holy crap. And I think it looked like I was sitting in a dark... Actually, I am sitting in a dark room. What the hell am I talking about? Put that over there. And let's adjust this sucker, because, you know, I don't need anyone wandering through here. Yeah, here's the other screen. Adjust that a touch. This is going to be fun. I've got the rest of shit up here, but see if I can actually get my brain to function well enough to even do this. It's funny, I feel like I'm committed now that I put the shit up there. But yeah, I've been having issues with, we'll call it neuroconnectivity, I suppose. Let me turn on the light and see if that happens, because I feel like that little camera's over-adjusting. Oh! Wow, maybe not. We'll leave that fairly dim. Fuck that shit. That was like blinding. Let me get myself some coffee before I do much of anything. What I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to just do a straight read and see how badly I fuck up. The problem is I'm a little bit leery of this in part because, you know, A, I haven't gotten much feedback yet, which would be nice if I got a little bit more of that. You know, I'd like to think people are enjoying the story, but when you don't hear enough back, you kind of start doubting and questioning yourself. But in any case, I'm going to be doing a little bit of a read of that. I was in a hangout earlier, and somebody's like, "Oh, here, well, you know, can you just keep things rolling for 5 minutes while I step away and do whatever?" And the first thing that kind of occurred to me while I was doing this, because I was like, okay, sure, fine, I'll just pop open, you know, a little segment, because I have a lot of little snippets and whatnot that didn't actually make it into the book, and some little bits for background for this character or that or what have you, because I thought that I might need it at some point later. Or just kind of as a fun thing, because there was some, we'll just call it prequel stuff that I'd written back in the day. A lot of which I don't actually have anymore, thanks to a fucking drive crash. The thing is, I got on there and I loaded it up and I looked at it, and my brain was not connecting with it. And this shows a fucking problem. And we have this wonderful thing called neuroplasticity. And as a result of that, we can sit there and essentially do remapping in our head while doing varied activities, whether it's going through and working on puzzles, solving math problems, or simply reading and trying to pay attention to what's going on there. Now, one problem I've been having since this last stroke, actually, fairly major problem, has to do with not only focusing on the words to do the reading, which it comes and goes, and part of that's diabetes related. But the bigger problem, the kind of core problem, is that there's a lot of things my brain's just not really connecting with. So this has problems with like reading comprehension and this kind of stuff. So even when I'm going through and reading something, and let me tell you, this is great when I go back to go even through my own fucking work, whether it be in the books that are already out or in 3, which I'm working on right now, is I go through it and it's like I'm not keeping things from one line to the next. Anyway. Floaters is something a little bit different. That's when basically you have a floater within the eye, and this is something very much different. This is from cognitive damage, and my field of vision, instead of, you know, being the normal field that you would have, is kind of donut shaped. So there's generally areas where it just kind of, where basically my vision just doesn't apply. And it's not like there's something per se in the way, like with a floater or what have you. My wife actually deals with those periodically. And this is a significantly different phenomena. Anyway, the theory behind this is to try to see if I can mend the right and left sides of my brain. One side of the brain is verbal, the other one's nonverbal. And the two of them, the connection between the two of them has been pretty fucking poor for a bit of a while now. Let me move this down to my screen here. There we go. And I can see a little bit better. No. This is actual cognitive damage from the stroke. Basically, my eyes work perfect. My eyes are working absolutely perfectly. The problem is that the areas that process the input are damaged, which is fun as hell. I also did have a brief bleed in one eye, but that went away within a few hours. Apparently, that was brief. I don't know. That was, I think, a pressure-related thing. But in any case, it's the area that processes that visual input that's fucked up. So, oh, let's see. Let's see if I can't even get my eyes to work well enough to do this. This is the thing. In one group that I was in talking about writing a while ago, was trying to explain to them that although I can, in some ways, see fine, I've been having weird problems reading, and they're like, "Oh, you're full of shit." I'm like, "No, I really have problems." Trying to explain just what a stroke does to a person is something that, most people can't really connect with or understand. It's a weird fucking thing. Anyway. I don't know, man. The dividing of the divided brain, yeah. I've actually been starting to stipulate that a lot of these notions of sensing that there's some kind of divine something or other out there may have a lot to do with the duality within our own skulls. We have the two hemispheres, and each one is almost like a slightly different iteration of the self. So as a result of that, the fact that you have these two hemispheres and each one's slightly different in terms of how it views the world, that might have something to do with the religious experience, that proverbial sense of the other that we seem to see in a lot of different cultures and a lot of different myths. I've kind of started to think that the sense of the other may actually have more to do with, make this a little bit bigger on my end. There we go. That this proverbial sense of the other that we refer to might actually be you sensing the other half of yourself, so to speak. No, I'm a hellbound heathen, a different kind. Hey Blue, how you doing, man? I do technically have Hangout open here. Not that I'm planning on doing much with it, but if you're bored out of your skull, Blue, and you want to come in and just play to fucking sit there and entertain people while I do nothing but fucking read, feel free. It might get another part of my brain fucking working at the same time. Actually, probably not. Just a random thought at the time, but trying to focus on multiple things at the same time is something I need to do for the sake of the recovery anyway. That's actually what's on this screen is the potential hangout, because I might actually pounce to that later. I have no fucking idea. Tonight's, I don't know. Not feeling so hot in terms of the brain, so I figure since I'm feeling a little shit up there, this is probably the time to see if I can break it. Incidentally, if words start coming out of my mouth that are just kind of random, we're going to play with that later, if that does end up being the case. Because what will happen sometimes is when my brain kind of goes a little bit off kilter or what have you, I'll start basically, my words will start getting jumbled and what have you. And if that happens, what I'll probably do is turn to the audience and see if I can get you to give me some sentences to say so that we'll see what actually comes out of my mouth while attempting to do so, because it's kind of fascinating. Technically speaking, the first mini stroke I had before either of the ones that actually really affected my mobility. One of the first ones, the first mini stroke, just scrambled my ability to talk. And I knew what I was trying to say, but the words that were coming out were just flat out fucking wrong. So I don't know, man. Oops. So if that happens again while I'm on air, I'm probably going to just go to the chat to try to get questions if I can communicate well enough for that. I don't actually have it up here. I'll type it in if I fucking have to. But that's one of the right-left examples is when, one side of the brain is saying, okay, fine, say this, and the other half is hearing what you're saying, going, wait a fucking minute, that's not what's coming out, because the way that the filtration between the two works is kind of fucked up, and there's no real good way to explain it. But on some levels, especially since this last stroke, some of the abnormalities that I've been having up there are similar, well, not quite the same, but similar to what people experience when they're a split brain patient. Because when this side here was hit, some of the parts that would normally go and connect just aren't quite connecting the way they used to, which is kind of fascinating. Oh, you're still waiting for there we go, Dragon Xavier. No, how many of you have actually shown up out there so far, Sam? Well, it's kind of in some ways, a crap situation that y'all are getting together because of the reason for it. I'm hoping y'all are at least able to, on some levels, to enjoy the occasion. Now, let's see just how fucked up my brain is and make an ass on myself on air. Why the hell not, right? If I can actually manage to focus my attention on one screen instead of the other, which is going to be a trick right now. Maybe I need to finish this cigarette and drink a little more coffee. I don't know, man. I'm like super fucking self-conscious right now, which is why I feel the need to actually do this live instead of just sitting there and messing with it off air. Because I know my brain's pretty fucked, and this way I'm going to have to pay more attention, especially because when it comes to the writing, that's something I give a shit about. Oh, hey, Doctrine, how you doing? I've seen you pop up the last couple times, and by the way, well, it was kind of a joke. I do kind of appreciate you changing your name to be not all in caps. That was kind of fun, actually. Anyway, time for me to be brain dead. No thanks. Yeah, okay, well, whatever. See if I can actually focus in on this, because I think this is going to turn into an exercise of me trying to tune out other stuff. I'm amazed that 9 people, Christ, are sitting there watching me babble here. Okay, that's going to help with the self-consciousness. Yay! See if my brain starts trying to do horrible things or not. I don't know. We'll see. Well, feel free to entertain yourselves in the chat while I just kind of do my thing. Let me move this out of my way to make sure I can't read what the hell's going on out there. Snitches. Okay. I have no idea what you're talking about. Can I get this to the point that I can actually see it someplace on the screen if I move this around to the right point? There we go. If I manage to move around to the right point, I should be able to actually read. I just have to find where that place is on the screen. It's like a donut, and I have to find the donut hole, and that's the portion of the screen I can read. I've got, hang on, let's see now. There we go. I have this big ass fucking 50 some odd inch monitor over here that I'm using as the primary, and that's actually why I got it, is because of that bit of an anomaly. People who complain about hate speech. Yeah, hate speech is a problem. You probably might not want to do that. You know, hate speech is, it's kind of hateful, you know. Yeah, I don't know. A lot of people I've seen that get into the whole kind of weird hate speech crap. The moment somebody sits there and kind of turns the tables on them, they get all pissy, and it's like, well, you know, you kind of get what you ask for. But anyway. Let's see if I can home in on this. Zipping around on the screen and it ain't fucking helping. Let's zoom in one here and see if that helps. Maybe it's a size thing. Sometimes size matters. Hey, pup. And herein lies the problem. Just attempting this is actually making me physically nauseous, and that's a problem, especially with the people that are trying to encourage me to do the ebook thing. Oh, okay, hang on. Let me find you, Blue. See if I can even fucking do this. Okay, let's find Blue here. God damn it, you're in one of these fucking groups. Let me see if I can find you. Let's see. Hey Blue, you in drag chat? Just lock it down after getting your butt in here, I guess. You're in one of these, I don't know which one. Let's try. I don't see any of these that you're showing up in. That's not helpful. It's gotta be one of them. I know I'm in like 20 million ancient fucking chats here, so. Unfortunately, finding people on Google is, just to say the least, not what it fucking used to be. Let's see now. That's part of why I decided to do a little pause on it. Yeah, this is not helping. There's an old one with Serb. One with Cliff, it's in one of these fucking things I should be able to find you in theory. I don't fucking know. Let's try one more time. The weird thing is that I know, technically speaking, I have you in one of these fucking groups. Let me just go to this. It's not fucking cooperating. Oh well. Sorry, Blue. Let's see. Let's try one other. Nah, that's not actually. Fuck it. I'm gonna give up. Because I have to hunt down a fucking group you're in. Are you in the TST chat or the drag chat, Blue? Sit here, stop to talk to the chat. That's great theater, I know. Let's scroll the fuck up here. Takes too long to wait for a response. I wonder what my delay is on this. It might be up to 20 seconds. That's always fun. The Jade group. I have to see if I can. Oh, that freaking. Okay, the special Jade group. I can't even find the darn thing. I'll just post it in the drag chat, I guess. Are you in there? Okay, works for me. Okay, I will grab the drag chat. I will pop this fucker in there. This is actually a more standard one, so I'm going to have to be cautious with this shit. There we go. This is not a proper corporate hangout this time. You got it, Sabella? Okay. Oh, it sends it on G+. Good grief. Let's see. How do I get the goddamn link out of it? Ah, son of a bitch. Ah! And of course, with this not being a proper corporate, if anyone else joins other than Blue, I might have to give them the boot. I really fucked that up. Oh well. Sabella, you send that to Blue? Yeah, this is great theater, I know. Why do I have 10 people watching this fucking shit? Oh well. Just waiting for it to load. It should already. Oh, you're not actually in right now. Okay, let me open another browser window. Yeah. My cognitive everything today is a fucking wreck. There we go. There we go. Thanks, Abella. Yeah, it's kind of a pain in the neck that you can't actually post something and then fucking remove it, or I would. They really didn't think this through too well now, did they, when they made all this crap? I don't know. You don't believe other people? Oh, okay. I'll leave that as it is. I don't know. This stuff confuses me sometimes. Well, in theory, Blue should have the link now. As I sit here, just keep forgetting that I've already grabbed the cigarette out of the pack. Let's put that back. Good grief. Oh, trying to get the brain function back is such a pain in the ass. I don't know, it's funny, I look back at some of the stuff I was doing years ago, and man, it kind of bugs me a little bit how much things have changed. Oh, let me change my audio while I think of it. Let's see, put that on that, and we need to change it on this side. And hopefully it won't crash like it did the other day. That was friggin' annoying. There we go. Okay. Apply. Okay. Audio
What's
preview.
up,
Oh, there
Shadow?
we go. I'm so used to the fucking doorbell. That scared the shit out of me, dude.
That was my plan. That was my plan. I
Man,
confess it.
man, dude, everybody needs to have some kind of plot. Yeah, I need to fucking home in on this. And it's funny because even simply having somebody else in the room makes me a little bit self-conscious because, I know I'm reading to people that are out there, but at the same point, it's kind of something weird about it. You're sitting there just, yeah, I don't know. Feel like you're talking to yourself, and I start feeling like I'm losing my marbles.
Forgive me for saying, but maybe in some cases you're overthinking things. It's just you're just doing your normal stuff here. It's nothing special. Don't be so fucking hard on yourself.
Oh, dude, I don't know, man. The book thing, there are aspects of it that are just it drive me a little bit bonkers. Because, as I've said a couple of times, and I know after a point it just sounds like I'm bitching, quite honestly. I mean, do one other thing here. Let me just add one other screen region, if I can. There we go. Grab
My voice
that.
scares people, Sabella, or just me?
There we go. That'll do the trick. Let me grab that up there into the corner. There we go. Now you exist. Now,
I
I
do.
the thing is that I know how fucked up my brain is, and well, I'm really good at hiding it because I've learned to hide shit. I've been doing this since I became diabetic. Whenever I get the shakes or what have you, I've learned how to suppress it. I actually have a weird amount of willpower when it comes to that kind of crap. Um, but at the same point, since releasing the book, I'm supposed to be running around and being super fucking confident, and everything I do is great, and yada yada yada. And sometimes I just don't fucking feel it, man. Sometimes I'm just
It's
sitting
not
there.
realistic for everybody, let alone an author.
Oh goddamn, I know, man. But at the same point,
Okay,
it's
I know. You're just saying how you feel. I know. I
yeah.
feel that with some way sometimes too.
I'm sure if you were sitting there and trying to basically put out a bunch of your little banjo stuff on as a couple tracks or whatnot, you'd be as kind of like, oh, I hope people like it, and get that weird little freak out thing, and then it increases self doubt and what have you. Any kind of art or music or what have you, you're going to have that. But at the same point, apparently, if you're writing or doing some creative thing and trying to promote it, you're supposed to be an arrogant twat. I'm not good at that.
I had a uplifting and encouraging and positive moment this week. I was well in a chat room I shouldn't be in. Let me just say that. And I'm talking to one of my lovely young pieces of fluff, and she wants to see me. Oh, hey, what's up, Shane? Glad to see you. She wants to see me. She wants the picture. And I'm very brave. And I was like, okay, well, here's my YouTube video. And I got back and she's like, okay, well, how do I know that's you? How do I know that's you? How do you? You're fucking joking. A middle-aged guy in a hat playing banjo over Led Zeppelin and talking about a street preach. I sent that to you to impress you? Really? But of course, it's very flattering. It's very flattering.
Yeah, I mean, any kind of compliment is on some levels a good thing. The problem is, first off, you don't want it to go to your head because then you start turning into that guy. You know the one I'm talking about. So
Oh, I don't think that's likely for you or me.
well, I don't know. At the same point, I've always been accused of being more afraid of success than failure, and part of that is, God, do I dread the idea of like having to do like a book signing or some shit like that.
Oh, you would love it. You would love it. And there's part of you that wants to have that experience.
Well, in between the horror, I suppose. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's one of those things. I mean, you can say, I'd like people to read it, and I hope they like it, and this kind of stuff. But I don't know. I'm actually half tempted to put it on sale at some point, which of course certainly doesn't fucking help with trying to get it out there at this point. But just like, okay, here's book one, help yourselves kind of thing to the ebook kind of thing. But I don't know. I will decide on that later. I mean, I'm going gonna have to figure out what the hell I'm doing with promoting, and we're probably gonna start the first real promotion this weekend, and I have no clue how it's gonna go.
Hold on, Shadow. I gotta get dressed.
As long as you're not on camera, you can do that. If you're on camera, then I'm going to run and hide. And go, no, it's a blue. Ah.
Oh, that's another terrible joke I have. Or terrible life story.
What, when you turn blue?
Well, there was a little tienda I used to go to, and usually I have great relations with all Palestinians, but these people were kind of rude and stiff to me, and he started saying, "You're a Jew." I was like, "Well,
okay.
Tell you if I was, but no, actually, I'm not. No. Oh, no, we know you're a Jew." And this would go on. I was like, "Oh, it's my friend the Jew," and I was like, "Oh, well, if I was really a Jew, I'd bring up the fact that you got your ass kicked."
Explain to them that's kind of a custom in the U.S. and you don't have to be Jewish. You know that.
Well, hold on. I'm getting to that. Don't jump me here.
Okay.
And so one day, yeah, it's just like you said. I showed them I was not Jewish. There's nobody else in the store, and I was like, okay. And after everybody's jaw came off the ground, I was like, well, you think like a Jew.
What does that even mean? I don't know, man. I mean, I've known, hell, my first serious girlfriend, I should say, was Jewish, actually. So a lot of this weird stuff just doesn't make any goddamn sense to me. It's like, okay, so, huh? Then again, I don't know, I guess I had in some ways.
Well, I can see why a Palestinian would have a complaint, I guess. But
well, in some regards, I had kind of a odd, I had some odd influences growing up. First serious girlfriend happened to be Jewish, and yes, she put out. And down the street from me, when I grew up, there was a family that were named Rockefeller, and they were very lower middle class.
Where's Von Helton?
I don't know, man.
Tell us about the Rockefeller Rothschild world conspiracy.
Yeah, and yet at the same point, I grew up down the street from some Rockefellers that didn't really have much money, so none of this makes any damn sense. Ugh. Yeah. Anyway.
This is YouTube, and we're not obligated to make sense.
Well, I find most things when it comes to conspiracies and what have you certainly don't make any goddamn sense. And now I have the pause of, okay, now we have 9 people watching. So anyway, how's your banjo, man?
Hold on. You put a lot of pressure on me.
No, it's not too much. All I need is a little bit of strumming or something. Some noise to make up for when I pause. Of course, if I start completely fucking up and the wrong words start coming out and this fun stuff, I'll give you a proverbial nudge, and then you can bug the audience to put in sentences they'd like me to attempt to say, because we can make a game out of that, because fuck it. When it hits, it hits. I mean, in theory, you don't want it to ever hit, but sometimes I'll just start throwing out the wrong word. And the first time around that when I had this, it was the first fight I ever got in with a wife, and that was bad timing. There we go. And I will adjust the external to make sure folks can hear me with a little bit of noise in the back. There we go. Is that about right? How's that, folks? And normally when I'm messing with this kind of stuff, I usually try to have some kind of background noise going anyway, so I was hoping it might help a little bit. Sound levels about okay out there? I can't hear what you hear externally while I'm in here, so talking to the chat. Hopefully that's well enough that you'll still be able to hear me at the same time. I mean, we see this in a lot of things. You sit there and you have this insanely fucking loud music going on, and Then you're straining your ears and you can't hear what the fuck the other person's saying. There we go. I'm going to knock it down one more half block for good measure. And thank you for agreeing, Blue. Reading sci-fi with banjo music in the background. That's got to be the weirdest fucking thing ever, right? Actually, that's one of the other things is in terms of categorizing things. You know, it's technically sci-fi in that the setting is science fiction, but it's more of a character-driven fantasy story than anything else, because you have magic and all that fun stuff in there. Well, let's give this a little bit of a shot. Let's see now. Welcome to Hyrule, chimed the customs agent. A strange feeling crept through Kayla as she looked around the starport. It all looked familiar, yet it was like no other place in the universe. A voice deep within her whispered impossibilities she couldn't accept. Her dark shadow haunted her, reminding her of fragments of a past too ancient for her to have the right to remember. She knew the light blue plates of the interior walls were once hull segments from the starship Balasharki, which had crash-landed here during the final days of the Elderos Empire. Hey, Blue. Just the idea was a little bit of noise, man. I didn't mean to sit there and like brainwash you into stop playing or anything. See now, which had crash landed during the final days of the Elderos Empire. The Kochek runes and the coral pillars which lined the hallways told long-forgotten tales of Taraman valor. The marble doorways came here from the city of Kathaka, the capital of the Colmian kingdom. The customs counters were made of wood imported from lush Vantage jungles. It must be your first time here. I see you've noticed the decor. We're very proud of it. The customs agent smiled as she motioned towards a pile of pamphlets. Take one if you'd like. Kayla stood in silence, struggling to suppress the shadow which lurked within the recesses of her mind. I'm sure you're impressed. Everyone is. Do you have anything to declare today? Kayla smirked and struggled to push down the thoughts running rampant through the back of her mind. Well, I don't have all day. Do you have anything to declare? The shadow won this round. Kayla smiled. What drugs do you take that make you so damn annoying? Excuse me? You're perky enough to gag a parasite. Would you like me to call security? The customs agent asked with her usual pleasant tone. If it results in a chance to watch them dismember you, sure. Otherwise, I'd prefer that you just let me go on my merry way. All I have is my robe and my boots. Please follow the green carpet through the second door to the decontamination area. Have a nice day. Kayla took a pamphlet as she left. She fought to filter out all the background noise in the busy starport as she glanced through the small booklet. Port Liberty on the planet Hyrule had become a central transportation hub after the discovery of the Dew-Star slipstream in 3072. The slipstream carried ships from Hyrule to the far side of the Dew-Star Nebula, a mere 2-day jump from the Pil Stargate. From there, the ships could be gated to anywhere in the universe in mere moments. This had made Hyrule a strategic planet during wartime. There we go, and I've already lost my place. Yay! There we go. This works for when I lose my spot. Very fucking definitely, man. Okay, there we go. Hyrule had changed hands hundreds of times over its long history. The native inhabitants regained control of the planet in 4326, and it had remained an independent port since then. Kayla smiled as she finally managed to quiet the thoughts of those around her. Telepathy normally manifested itself at a very young age, which gave a child plenty of time to adjust. This was not the case with Kayla, whose abilities blossomed just as a race riot broke out at a concert she was attending. Thousands of voices in hundreds of languages screamed in her head in unison. It took 3.5 years of therapy and training to bring her back from the brink of insanity. The telepathic abilities were as much a curse as a blessing. The number of people around a telepath increased the difficulty of shielding their mind from the thoughts of others. Most telepaths avoided crowded places. Starports were, unfortunately, unavoidable. In places as busy as Port Liberty, it was nearly impossible to determine who was thinking which thoughts. Kayla was directed to decon stall number 8. She walked over and looked into the stall. It was disgust. Decontamination could take hours, but it was important to be thorough. Viruses and other organisms that were harmless to some species could wipe out entire ecosystems on alien worlds. A seemingly benign virus that was overlooked when the Elderos Empire made first contact with the Colmians led to a 100-year war which ended in the near extinction of the Colmian race. The virus did more damage to the Colmians than the armies of Elderos could have in 1,000 years. The door to the stall.
Deadly virus. Deadly virus.
Kill them all.
It's a deadly virus.
The Colmians are actually kind of an octopoidal-looking race that has a big, funky oval body, and then you have all the tentacles coming out. That little reference there is actually kind of a callback to War of the Worlds. Might as well throw the footnote in there. There we go. The door to the stall closed and a small video screen on the opposite wall activated. Those that dream of traveling to strange worlds have never spent 3 hours in decon staring blankly at an orientation video. Welcome to Hyrule, one of the last neutral planets in Corellis. The video rambled on about popular attractions, how the planet achieved its independence, and information on the slipstream. They provided directions to follow during the decon procedure. The first 2 phases of decon went smoothly. Entering Strange 3, if you're a Lamentic and have forgotten to declare your parasite, please push the declaration button on the console below the video display. The console counted down from 10 before continuing. Commencing bioscan now. Kayla sighed heavily as she removed her robe and boots. She grumbled unhappily as she placed them in the sterilization chamber. Sterilized leather feels sticky and nasty. It takes hours of buffing and polishing to undo the damage done by the sterilization process. Kayla had chosen to wear her boots and oversized robe for this very reason. The extra large cotton robe would shrink to a more acceptable size and her boots would still fit, even if they didn't feel right. First-time space travelers seldom research decontamination and often arrive to find that all of their clothing had been ruined during decon. Luggage went through a similar process. Entering Stage 4, the video continued, place your clothing and all personal effects in the sterilization chamber and press proceed. Kayla pressed the button, anything to speed up the process. She raised her arms, spread her legs, and waited for Stage 5. Decontamination of personal effects complete. Entering Stage 5. Please move all appendages away from your body and hold your breath while the antibacterial mist is initiated. Kayla recited in unison with the video console. A hot blast of mist filled the stall for a full 10 seconds. Scanning for additional bacteria complete. Bacteria found. Repeating Stage 5. Not this again, Kayla hissed. Malfunctioning stall stuck in the middle of Stage 5 had once held her hostage for hours. Scanning for additional bacteria. Scan complete. No bacteria found. Proceeding to Stage 6. Kayla sighed with relief as she placed her hand over a blue panel on the wall. Please place your hand on the blue panel and wait for further tests to be conducted. A narrow tube entered the stall from the left wall. Please breathe into the tube to test for airborne microbes. She blew into the tube and waited for the blue light to turn green. All blood and tissue samples have been taken. Please wait while testing is conducted. The video rambled on about the planets, its cities, many attractions. Stage 7, 8, and 9 all completed before the results were back from the blood test. Entering Stage 10, inoculation. A mechanical arm swung from a socket in one of the walls and struck her arm with a packet of a dozen microinjectors, each issuing a separate serum to protect visitors from the local planetary illnesses. Swelling may last several days, the video advised. One more to go, Kayla sighed with relief. Refill my cup while you play. Yay, coffee. Yay, ability to breathe. Holy crap, dude. Still 10 viewers, wow.
Cleveland. All right, Cleveland, you finally got it. All right, Cleveland, where the hell you gonna put it?
There you go. Okay, here we go. Let's go back one step here. One more to go. One more to go, Kayla sighed with relief. Entering stage 11. What? Kayla growled. It didn't say final stage. She heard her shadow snicker from the recesses of her mind. She wondered how she could possibly know the decon procedure well enough to anticipate it. Blood test results verified. No harmful organisms found. Proceeding to stage 12. Stage 12? What in the powers is stage 12? A red beam of light passed through the chamber. Identity confirmed. Proceeding to stage 14. Sorry, 13. DNA analysis. Kayla sighed heavily. Hyrule must be having a problem with changelings. DNA analysis inconsistent with racial profile. Please wait while security dispatched to this location for further investigation.
Security is coming to get this imposter, or maybe there's a mistake. We don't even know what's going on here, Shadow. You got to read some more. And what about the micro injections? Don't they give you one to make you
not a changeling? Certainly not.
A little high. Why don't you put that in, Shadow? They made him a little high. Okay.
I should be on my way home. Come on, you stupid machine. Work. Kayla's day had just gotten worse. At least give me my robe back. Security escorted Kayla to a back room without the courtesy of returning her clothing. The experience would have shaken anyone, but telepathy turned it into a nightmare. Welcome to Hyrule, the security chief said without looking up from the array of display screens lining the surface of his desk. Kayla sighed with relief. A small device on the table had dampened her telepathic abilities as soon as she'd entered. The security chief looked up at her, then addressed his officers with a stony glare. Why didn't you retrieve her garments before bringing her here? Go get them, now! The two guards grumbled half-heartedly, yes, sir, and stalked off. I'm sorry for the inconvenience, ma'am, but our equipment seems to be malfunctioning. According to your racial profile, you're a 17-year-old Shimfarian Dayrith hybrid, but the scanner results showed something very different. Excuse me? According to the scanner, you only have a few tags from your claimed heritage. The rest of your genetic matrix indicates that you're a first-generation Elderon hybrid, which is, of course...
Wait a minute. Hold on, Shadow. Go back and read that paragraph again. You're going too fast. This
okay. Sorry, trying to switch characters here, because according to the scanner, you have only a few tags from your claimed heritage. The rest of your genetic matrix indicates that you're a first-generation Elderon hybrid, which is, of course, impossible. The Eldros Empire left Kraus thousands of years ago. There has to be a problem with the equipment. We're running diagnostics now. Elderon? Kayla blinked in disbelief. The security chief smiled. It gets better. According to this readout, you have some markers only found in Clotharians and Gyron genetics, but not many. The security officer returned with Kayla's robe and boots. They whispered amongst themselves while she got dressed. Well, this is certainly interesting. The diagnostics showed no malfunctions, but these results can't possibly correct. It shows some additional genetic markers that don't exist anywhere. I'm going to release you and have them do a full overhaul of the machine. According to our data, you have too many genes? It must have been a problem with the imaging system. There are a few races that have a triple helix, but even though they don't have coils this tight. So what are you...
Oh, there's no problem with the machine. I can already tell.
So what are you saying? Kayla was starting to get nervous. Well, according to these results, you can't possibly exist since you're obviously not a changeling. You can go. Kayla stormed out of the security office and headed straight for the reception area. Her aunt Bookworm would be waiting for her there. There we go. Hey, people out there, I'm giving my brain a momentary break and finishing some coffee. How you doing, Blue? I'll give the eyes a rest for a couple of seconds here. I hope I probably skipped a few words. I tend to do that when I'm reading because I already know the damn story. Sorry about speeding up so much in that one segment. My brain was getting into the character of the security chief who's just very... So yes, her genome looks like shit. Now, the fun part is here, because this is one of those things when you're writing things, you'll have people like, well, what does it mean when you say that her genome's coiled too tight? What it means is the security guard doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about because he's not a geneticist. So he's looking at it going, that doesn't look right. Let's see now. So how's everybody doing out there? We got 9 people listening. Wow, that's a little bit of a shocker. One of the what's channels? What the hell's that? I don't know about Godless Girl doing an actual turnaround up. I don't know, man. I mean, she's still just kind of an obnoxious troll. Anyway, I'm not. That's not what the point of this is. The point of this is to try and kind of sew my fucking brain back together. That's what it feels like, at least. It's a fucking weird sensation when you work on trying to remap the synapses. And there are certain things that when you're trying to explain the process from an experiential level that just don't fucking make sense. I mean, even if you're the one that's trying to explain them, they don't really make that much sense. To that point, I felt like I'd screwed up my remapping. And the way I've been explaining this, it's like that old thing that you put a bunch of nails equidistant on a board and you take a piece of yarn or what have you and try to connect them in different patterns. And it's kind of like that in terms of trying to do the remapping. And it's almost like sometimes when I'm in the process of this, it's almost as if there's a nail missing from the board. So you get to a certain point and then you have to pause and you have to start unwinding all that yarn because you only have so much yarn, so to speak. So then you have to start all over and redo it. And that's kind of how I was feeling earlier tonight, which is part of the point of this. Try to see if I can sit there and get everything lined up the way it's supposed to be. Because you have the verbal and nonverbal half, and one of them was working fairly well, and the other one was crap. The problem is that if I'm going to start trying to get Dragon working, I need to get the verbal and the nonverbal working together. Otherwise, I'm just going to freeze up every time I even attempt it. Fun, fun, fun. Now, I think blue might be taking 5. Might be a good thing. Granted, I'm enjoying having the extra sound in here. That's kind of fun. Let's see now. So, for the sake of the 9 people that are watching, y'all enjoying so far, or? I usually don't get more than like 2 people watching when I'm sitting there working on stuff. But this is a little bit different because I'm doing an intermittent read with intermittent playing and a lot of intermittent coffee because coffee is my life's blood. I do like to keep a little bit of blood in my coffee periodically, but oh wait. I do like a little blood in my coffee stream. Yeah, there we go. That's what I was going for. That at least people can entertain themselves in this external chat there. Yeah, let's get on to chapter 2, I suppose. The reception area was an enormous lounge where people waited for their family members and luggage, neither of which arrived in a timely manner. The security checks on visitors and luggage were as tedious as decon. Kayla suspected Starport management secretly enjoyed holding people hostage with their insane security measures. Bookworm had a high enough security clearance to bypass the Starport's check. Top secret clearance wasn't hard to get. The classified levels beyond that were just listed as special clearance. To anyone without equal or higher clearance, it was often best to simply let people with special clearance to do whatever they wanted. They could be the director of the Information Society, a Black Church Grand Templar, or an assassin with some serious connections. Bookworm was one of the highest-ranking Black Church officials in Hyrule. Her title, Rune Bearer, was only honorary, but it was enough to give her special clearance level. Kayla was surprised her aunt hadn't arrived yet. She surveyed the people in the reception area. It was far less crowded than the customs area, but it was still difficult to sample thoughts of individuals. Hundreds of stray thoughts rumbled through her mind. The therapist at the Psionic Research Institute, PRI, called this background noise static. Kayla found this term to be grossly inadequate. There were ways to silence the voices, but the cure was worse than the condition. Dampening fields, wonderful as they were, cost more than starships. And while the drugs Worked for weak telepaths. Anyone with a powerful talent needed a dangerously high dosage. She shook off an test. There we go. Let me try this again. There we go. The brain. Okay. she she shook off an unpleasant memory. She'd taken the drugs to suppress her talents once and spent the following hours sitting in a corner drooling. I have to get out of here. A panicked thought emerged from the turmoil. They know I'm here. I have to get there first, then I can die. Kayla looked around for the source of the thoughts, but nobody was acting unusual. Slow down, relax, the voice continued. The list is still there. I can do this. I wish I had some help. She looked around the room uneasily. They can't get me here. There are too many witnesses, too many questions to answer. Being alone is always more suspicious. Hide in a crowd, in plain sight. Kayla noticed a cloaked figure in a long black cloak. Kayla noticed a figure in a long black cloak check its pockets twice. Well, she overheard its thoughts. It was walking with the deliberate calmness of a wounded animal. It moved its head slightly from side to side before checking its pockets one last time. Kayla took a deep breath and reached out to its mind. She was gentle and careful not to think too forcefully. If you tell me more, I can help you, Kayla whispered to its mind. There's no time. We're all going to die. The people on the list die first. Then they'll come for everyone else. How do I know you're not one of them? I can see you. You're wearing a black robe. If I were one of them, you'd be dead already. Kayla's concentration heightened as she spoke. The rest of the voices in the room slowly faded into obscurity. Is your name on the list? It nodded slightly. The response was either a reflex, or it wanted to verify that she knew its location. Kayla smiled. Now I see you. You're just a child. You can't help me. Kayla scowled. Hey, I'm plenty old enough. I'm half Dayrith. We mature faster than most races. Enough talk. Need to keep moving. You're just distracting me. Please, let me help you. It's too dangerous. One person can't stop a war. Is that what you're trying to do? What will happen if you don't make it? It walked over to a trash barrel and reached into its pocket. It withdrew a torn piece of paper and brought it up to its face. It leaned forward as if convulsing, then crumpled the paper and placed it on the rim of the barrel. It lowers its head as it continued towards the door. Wear a sweater tomorrow at 9, and remember, it's always sunny at midnight. Kayla! A different voice screamed in her mind. She smiled at the feel of her brother's mind. She darted toward the door, but hesitated by the trash barrel. She scooped up the crumpled scrap of paper while looking for her brother and aunt. Hey. One of these days I'm going to have to go through this and see how well I did with actually modulating the sound. Anyway, Kayla, Bookworm called from across the room. Kayla ran to her aunt and hugged her tight. I've missed you. Where's Vance? Bookworm chuckled softly. He's waiting on the other side of the checkpoint. My clearance doesn't cover guests. Kayla stepped back and took a good look at her aunt. Gyrons and Demargyrons always wore body armor in public. Bookworm was one of these species. But she wouldn't say which one. The darkness at the back of Kayla's mind offered reasons, but she had no desire to listen. Let's get moving. Your brother may have grown in height, but not in patience. Bookworm shifted uncomfortably under Kayla's intent to stare. Is that a new suit? Bookworm touched her left shoulder with her right hand, which was her way of blushing. Thank you for noticing. I've had it for a few months now, but it's still nice and shiny. Kayla slowly circled her aunt. Black metal segments covered her hips, shoulders, chest, and joints. The hollowed-out center of the dark metal contained a strange red rune-engraved material that Kayla could not identify. The spine guard and helmet were made of bronze. The eyes of the helmet were red lenses, and black bands followed the contour of her cheeks, jawline, and eyebrows. The same red inlay traced the sides of the helmet, interconnecting each of the black bands. The arms and legs are made of black leather. It's stunning. What are the red parts made of? Kayla asked. Oh, it's dyed bone, of course, Bookworm smiled. What kind? Her aunt tilted her head to the left, indicating thoughtfulness. I didn't ask. I suppose I should. Sorry, I suppose I should have, but the designer assured me it's genuine. I don't know if it's really from the Temple of Faragon, but it is pretty. Kayla smiled uneasily as the darkness at the back of her mind scoffed at its authenticity. Yes, it's pretty. Bookworm touched her shoulder again. I didn't mean to embarrass you. You need to learn to accept compliments. Kayla picked up a stray thought from Bookworm. It was a nonverbal image, a memory of strange black-eyed creatures beating and taunting a frightened child. The darkness in Kayla's mind chuckled as it whispered to her, red eyes, black eyes, one blood, two breeds, the Creator's sins extracted from the young. Kayla flinched, trying to hide from her dark shadow. We should go. Vance is probably getting frantic. Bookworm nodded. He's missed you. How bad has it been? Kayla asked as they walked towards the exit. Her aunt lowered her head slightly but said nothing. That bad? He's all right. His will is strong. Kayla shook her head in disgust. I wish they would just leave him alone. Nobody deserves to be beaten because of their parents. Bookworm watched Kayla for a moment before responding. I suppose not, but unfortunately it happens. Sometimes bloodlines are enough of an excuse for the strong to persecute the weak. Kayla smiled, knowing she'd given her aunt a moment of solace. Telepathy did have its moments, but not many. Why are there so many booths here? Kayla asked as they walked down the long hallway to the lobby. They hadn't finished construction when you were shipped off-world that day, had they? Not that it would have mattered. You were in a coma after all, Bookworm explained with a sigh. Hyrule is one of a small handful of independence worlds. Independence is a strange word. Here we go with the brain fucking up. Is a strange word. Almost every galactic power makes its presence known here, each asserting its form of political, economic, or religious dominance. Local government may not allow any of the factions to become dominant, but each has extraordinary influence on daily life. Their presence is everywhere, but their true strength remains well hidden. Port Liberty is the exception to this general rule. Recruitment centers, embassies, and small chapels line the hallways between the waiting area and the various exits. This was the cost of Hyrule's independence. Freedom, in the end, always comes with a price. It doesn't look that bad, Kayla commented dryly. Hyrule became neutral ground, and the most diversified trade world in the universe. Unfortunately, behind this wondrous veil of prosperity lurks corruption that would be impossible anywhere else. The balance of power took years to achieve. Basic freedoms became empty promises, and planetary security teetered on the brink of paranoia. In the end, a 20-block district in the southernmost part of the capital was designated as a government-free zone. Bookworm paused and added, That is, of course, where I live, Blade's Edge. You lived on the northern outskirts of Blade's Edge. Here we go, tongue-tied and brain going, Bleh. There we go. You've lived on the northern outskirts of Blade's Edge for as long as I can remember, Kayla remarked. It's far from pleasant, but it suits my purposes. The position as Runebearer for the Black Church provides more prestige than income. It's only enough to pay my bills between commissions. It's only enough to pay the bills between my commissions, actually. Bookworm lowered her head as she continued to talk. The frequency of information gathering jobs has been dwindling steadily over the past few years. That's why I took the job with the Black Church. Personally, I hate the Church's ethics, but what choice do I have? How's business been? Kayla asked. Her aunt was silent. That bad? She nodded. Sorry to hear that. Bookworm lowered her head and shrugged. I just don't understand it. I've gotten so bored I've started looking for conspiracies for fun. Either all the factions in the galaxies have made peace, or they're working together on the biggest conspiracy of all time. I'm sure you'd know about it if they were, Kayla tried to reassure her aunt, but knew the sentiment would be lost. Every time I think I've found what I'm looking for, I run into a dead end. I could get somewhere if I just had the terms. I just can't find the right keywords. I can tell they're all hiding something. I just don't know what. I haven't heard from any of my regular clients in years. I've been living off of savings. I can't even afford to upgrade my equipment. Kayla sighed deeply. There was something desperate in her aunt's tone, but Here we go again. And this is why we're working on the neural recovery, because this is not lining up in my brain. Oh, it looks like blue fell out. Oh. Well, so much for the sounds for distraction. You should still have the link if he wants to come back in. Okay, let's see now. Where the fuck am I? Oh, there we go. Speaking of. Dun dun dun. Living off savings, I can't even afford to upgrade my equipment. Kayla sighed deeply. There was something desperate in her aunt's tone, but Bookworm wouldn't accept help from anyone. Are you sure there's something going on? The factions have never agreed on anything. Bookworm nodded. All my instincts are screaming. I can feel it in my bones, taste it on the wind. It's there, I just can't find it. Has my mother been working much? It was bad for a while, but it's picked up lately. She's actually been able to choose her hits. Valk hasn't been around much, so I've been spending a lot of time with Flair and Vance. Is Flair still working with Deathcore? She got fired. You're kidding, for what? Bookworm made a fist and brought it to the center of her chest. A sign of disgust. They accused her of corporate espionage and nobody will hire her now. Vance's mother accused of espionage? Kayla was about to respond further, but Bookworm's thought patterns distracted her. The Gyron language was too intricate for other species to understand completely. Bookworm was hiding something. It had something to do with Kayla, and she had a vague idea what it could be. They were in a DNA scan while I was going through decon, Kayla commented. They found some interesting stuff. Her aunt sounded nervous. Did they? Kayla felt Bookworm's thoughts again. The content was lost, but there was no surprise, only fear. Auntie, Kayla asked, what was I like when I was young? I can't remember anything before my 12th birthday. Why can't I remember anything before then? Thoughts whirled through Bookworm's heads. You were a happy child. You know you forgot everything after the accident. What kind of accident was it again?
Oh my God.
What kind of accident was it again? Bookworm's thoughts became frantic. I don't like to talk about it. If you want to go over it again, ask Flair or your mother. I've had too hard a week. I don't wish to discuss these things. Kayla pouted silently while they continued their walk. The darkness in her mind mocked her, but was content to wait to exert its will. She once considered the darkness her enemy, but had come to terms with it during her time at PRI. The early stages of her training required long hours of solitary confinement, and her shadow was always there to keep her company. The hallway ended at the last security checkpoint where Vance was waiting. Her brother was a complete stranger to patience. He smiled warmly and motioned her over frantically. The security guard's annoyance level was increasing noticeably. Think we should keep him waiting? Bookworm seemed irritated. Kayla! Vance screamed in her mind. Hurry up! Kayla flinched. Stop yelling, Vance. Incidentally, the parts that are in italics are either telepathy or mind speech. The problem is when you're reading it aloud like that, sitting there and pausing to note which is kind of a pain in the ass sometimes. That's whether it's internal, but this is just mental communication between the two of them.
I would suggest using a completely different voice so that's, evident to people.
It's a little trickier, but yeah, if I were to do it if I were to try to figure
out, obviously, maybe you're right. You don't have to do that because unless it's an audiobook format, it'll be obvious when you're reading it.
Yeah, that's part of why I popped it up on the screen, because otherwise it's almost like doing a complete rewrite to get it in there. And I'd have to be inserting the word thought and this kind of stuff constantly, because it's almost like translating it to audio format. It's a big pain in the butt. So instead, I try to just give the vague impression as to what's thought and what's spoken, and do slight variances in voices. But
I've learned so much from authors like you and Jason Burns recently.
Oh God, fucking J-Boo.
I'm sorry. You warned me too.
No, dude. Actually, I had some fun with that just earlier today. My daughter was sitting there talking about somebody that was harassing her or whatever, and wanted pics and something like that. And I'm like, well, Jason Burns recently put out a kid's book. I'm sure that has pics. You can link them to that. Just tell me I'm a book of pics. Anyway, let's see.
It's unbelievable, and other people have done it. People who are not in the community and far away. If you type in the word "dishonest cunt" in the Google image search, Jason is first on the list. I don't know how he
Are
got
you
that.
sure Jill didn't beat him out?
You can try. Everybody, try it right now. Enter "dishonest cunt" on the Google image search.
Wow. I don't know. I think it should be Jill, since he said that if the Bible actually allowed for chattel slavery, he'd stop being a Christian. And as far as I know, he still is, even though it's pointed out that that's exactly what the Eved Khan and I were. In any
Oh,
case,
well, I mean, if we start taking candidates for biggest dishonest cunt, I mean, we'll never,
Google dictates in the end now, doesn't it?
I'm going to go try that now, see if it still works.
Oh, there we go. In terms of clockwork, how's things looking in terms of the general DC area? I have a friend out there that I've been worried about, that I've been waiting to hear from, and I've gotten nothing so far. Anyway, I will check up in a second. Hopefully he'll respond. But yeah, I tried contacting. It's actually my friend Annie. I've had her in a couple hangouts. But yeah, I'm a little concerned about her. Play the song. You know the one. Is there a Dishonest Cunt song or something? Or a Jason Byrne song? Or
I don't know what song Rex means. He may mean the Deliverance song.
okay, I don't know. Let's see now.
Is that the one you mean, Rex? Please say so in the chat.
Here we go. Stop yelling. Here we go. That's good to hear. I've been a little worried. I didn't know if that was part of the evacuation or not. I shot her a message earlier asking her to let me know what's going on. In any case, I should probably get back on fucking topic here, now that I've given my brain a couple minutes to fucking rest, because I can only apparently read so much before it starts kind of cross-wiring and I start having problems reading things, but working through that in theory is what this is all about.
Someday I'll tell you the story, Rex, of how I got fired from Dollywood for...
What did you do? Try to figure out a way to grab both of the giant breasts by the entrance?
Oh, no. Please don't make me play this song again. I've been playing it since 10 a.m.
And we only need that when we start dealing with the Dayreth, who were originally basically Southerners and what have you, Southern separatists and what have you, and they were loaded on an Ark ship and sent off to this planet with this wonderful, charming blue sun, and since they prized the whiteness of their skin, by the time they went back to space, they were fucking blue. Yep, just like that. In any case. Ooh, that one hurt. Kayla flinched. Anyway. Vance smiled playfully. You're upset because I'm excited to see you? Just be quietly excited. Kayla couldn't stop herself from grinning as she mind spoke. Vance and Kayla mind spoke with magic, not telepathy. Her brother's mind was a dangerous place, where nothing was what it seemed. Vance thought in intricate colors and shapes. Attempts to discuss Vance's thought patterns while she was at PRI had been futile. The staff there had refused to believe her because it contradicts their teachings. The mind of a sentient being was a fascinating place. There were 4 primary levels of thoughts. Surface thoughts consisted of conversations people had in their head. Outer thoughts were memories and other things they wished to hide. Then there were inner thoughts, which were normally unknown to the subject. The subconscious mind controlled inner thoughts, which made them harder to understand. The 4th and last level of the thought were core thoughts. Those thoughts were as deep as a telepath could go, and even the strongest telepaths avoided them. Reading the darkest depths of a person's consciousness could break a telepath's mind. The core level is too primitive to scan reliably. It was a place of impulses and reflexes which controlled the autonomic functions of the body. Researchers had theorized that understanding the mind's core was the key to manipulating the actions of others. Those that had tried to unlock these secrets had lost their minds in the process. Telepathy allowed people to connect to other people. Cyberpathy was a much different talent, which allowed them to connect with computers. The mind of a cyberpath worked differently. It only had two layers. They had no surface thoughts at all, but they did have a core like everyone else. Their central region was a fast-flowing stream of data. They thought like machines, and a telepath could fry their own synapses trying to scan a cyberpath. Vance was not a cyberpath, but did lack surface thoughts. Telepaths, as a general rule, did not scan people without surface thoughts. Doing so could be as dangerous as it was foolish. Only her brother knew about her shadow. The researchers at PRI knew there was something strange about the way Kayla thought, but they never found the dark thing lurking in her mind. "Ma'am," asked a green-haired humanoid, "is this your luggage?" Kayla glanced over at the slim, muscular woman who had interrupted her thoughts. She glanced over at the metal push cart and nodded her head. "It's mine." The woman pushed the cart behind them until they cleared the security area. She looked like a Lumtharian. She could be a member of any of the Terran subbreeds which originated from the planet Earth. Assuming her hair color was natural, Lumtharian was the most likely color. "Falcar, she looks very young," the woman thought. Kayla wondered about the baggage girl's thoughts. She was being blocked from scanning or even probing the woman, but that thought had been received easily. "Falcar, are you sure?" the woman thought. The baggage girl was using some sort of telepathic communication, but Kayla could only pick up half of it. The woman was preceding each statement with the word Thelkar, which Kayla assumed was the recipient's name. Starting with a name wasn't required for standard telepathy or mind speaking with magic. "Thelkar, I'll make sure she does." Kayla glanced over at her aunt. Bookworm was ignoring the baggage girl completely. She scanned the crowd in widening arcs, but couldn't find the other participant. "Thelkar, get moving before they find you. Try not to get yourself killed." She noticed something dark out of the corner of her eye and glanced in time to see the being in the black cloak heading toward the starport exit. She scanned it briefly as it walked through the door. Its mind was familiar, but it had calmed down since her conversation with it earlier. "Vorshana," it thought. "Wish me luck." "Thelkar, may the powers guide," the green-haired woman thought in response. Kayla was still scanning the cloaked being at the time and heard the transmission echo in its head. The word Thelkar was not part of the transmission. She suspected that Thelkar and Vrashana were their names, and the means of communication was technological. She would have to ask Bookworm if there were any devices that could make this possible. An explosion rocked the starport. The force of the blast knocked Bookworm, Kayla, and Vance to the floor. Dust and smoke wafted lazily through the security area. The exit where the dark-robed figure had stood was gone, replaced by a deep crater. The patch of shattered earth was almost 15 feet across. Kayla curled up in a ball and wept. The being called Thelkar had been standing in a crowd of people who had all been leaving through that exit. She had felt their deaths, and still felt the pain of the survivors. The wave of intense emotion had swept over her, hammering her defenses to the ground in one decisive blow. "It's okay," a calming voice whispered in her ear. "No, it's not. I felt them die," Kayla gagged as she choked on her tears and floating debris. "Just listen to my voice. I love you. You'll be all right." "It's not all right." "It will be. Just relax and listen to me." Kayla went limp and slid into his warm embrace. "Vance, it's me. Now just listen to the sound of my voice. Nothing else matters. Vance's words were soft and soothing. "We're all safe now. It's going to be all right. We're family, and that's all that matters. Right now, let the rest of them worry about themselves." Kayla's mind began to calm. Her brother's voice drowned out all the noise around her. His words seemed to echo through her as if he were speaking to the very core of her mind. "Breathe deeply and only hear me, Kayla." Kayla took a deep, shuddering breath and listened to his soothing words. Each breath came easier than the last. "Good. Feel their pain subside with each breath. I'm here now and everything will be all right. Kayla smiled and snuggled into his arms. He stroked her hair slowly. I love you, Vance. I love you too, Kayla. Vance's word echoed through her and soothed her in ways only he could. The thoughts around her faded into nothingness. Where's my ashtray? There we go. Kayla took a moment to marvel at the silence. Thank you. She slowly opened her eyes. Vance was grinning mischievously. What? I didn't expect that to actually work, he laughed softly. Where did you learn that? He shrugged. It's a relaxation technique I picked up somewhere. From my mother? Kayla mentally scolded herself for forgetting Valk's training sessions. Vance nodded. At least I got something out of him. Bookworm grumbled. Let's get out of here before they close down Port Liberty for a full investigation. We'll help you with your bags. The baggage girl was gone. She must have left during all the commotion. There was an extra bag on the cart, which had not been there before. In all the confusion, she'd forgotten the woman's name, but had the suspicion they'd meet again. She slung the strange bag over her shoulder as Bookworm and Vance helped with the rest of her luggage. Chapter 3. How's everybody doing out there? And, well, my brain cycles around in fucking circles. Oy. Take off the glasses. I'm down to 6 people. I chased off a couple, it looks like. Down to 5. I'm not doing anyone with a wrench right now. That requires actually changing screens and everything. But in any case, well, I'm taking a brief break now that I'm hitting Chapter 3 mark. How's everybody doing tonight? Storm watches notwithstanding, potentially. Yeah. You'd be able to breathe, and funny that I go for filtered air immediately. And try to get some more coffee. Ugh. Don't know if y'all are enjoying it or not, but I've lost 4, so who knows? But yeah, so part of the whole self-consciousness thing on my end is the fact that I know that there are those synapses that aren't connected, so it's almost embarrassing reading your own fucking work and knowing where the story's going and your brain not actually latching on to certain words and have you, and eventually, and what have you, there we go, and essentially getting lost while reading my own crap. There's a certain level of embarrassment about that, but sitting there and forcing my way through here is the only way to start getting it in my head so that I can basically understand what the fuck I'm reading. I've been having a little bit of a problem with that, reading the same line over and over and what have you. Now, in terms of my own work, I'm familiar enough with it that it's easier for me to anticipate because I know what's coming next. Reading something that I don't know what's coming next is still a little bit trickier right now, so I figure this is a better starting point for that. I mean, even when I'm going through and trying to review stuff that I've written that's newer material in book 3, I'm having problems holding on to the meaning of sentences as I go on. So that's been kind of interesting, to say the least. Okay, cool. I will go and see if I can disambiguate that and get going with that later. Might be winded here. I might need to call it and just open up a fucking hangout for a bit and see how that goes. So how's everybody at an outside world there? Actually, wait, this is the wrong kind of hangout. I'd have to start a new one, wouldn't I? God damn it. I'd have to actually start a proper corporate one if I were to do that. So I don't know, what do y'all think? Should I just keep reading for a little bit, or do you think I should just close the sucker down for a little bit and start a proper hangout? I'll leave that to the external. I don't know if folks are enjoying or not, or what's going on. And I hope my delay timer isn't that fucking bad. I'm getting winded really well. We're working on this. Let's see now. Oh, Drag's live. No wonder I lost people. There's some fucking theater unlike this shit. Oh, well, Drag just landed apparently. Oh, hang on. I'm curious now. Let's see now.
To go this way, we would be getting closer to a certain homeless man then. Well, he looks homeless. Or like a prospector. Who doesn't do funerals.
Let's see now.
Oh, it's so fortunate. We're
so sad.
I
mean, I was going to pick up some Sailor cherries.
Oh, their screen's darker than mine.
Oh my god. still surprised Pew came.
Well,
I'm
they're
still
laughing
gonna
and having a grand old time. I think I'm going to call this for now, and I might head over and listen to Dragon them bullshitting on the car on their way in. Anyway, I don't know, man. What do y'all think? I mean, I've got 2 chapters is good for tonight. I got 1 keep reading. I don't know. The delay is about 20 seconds. Oh, wow, that's a lot longer than I thought. I knew I'd set a delay timer when I set up the XSplit stream. I just didn't realize it was 20 full seconds. Holy crap, man. Well, I don't know. I can watch their shit later. I don't know. I guess I'll... Oh, what do we have going here? Yep, just landed. Meh. Anyway. I'll go listen to them be dipshits in a little bit, I guess. I don't know. What the hell? Cancel out of that. I don't need. Okay, close out. Why do I have all this shit open? I just closed the wrong fucking window, didn't I? No, I didn't. There we go. Let's just get this out of the way. There we go. As y'all see me messing with other screens over here. Well, I guess we could do 3. If y'all are up for listening for another chapter, I'm going to be, well, he's broadcasting. Frankly, broadcasting more interesting shit because it's all the folks first meeting each other. Yeah, in person, that is. That sounds more fun, but let's read a little more, I guess. If I can get some coffee going here. Yeah, it's nice having Blue in here to distract me for a little bit there. I liked that. It made for less silence, at least, while I'm sitting there doing shit, but I'm going to probably have to check that delay, because 20 seconds is a little bit longer than I'd like. I should probably set it to 5 to 10, I don't know. Part of why I set it to that is, the thought is, if somebody starts trying to do something they shouldn't do in a hangout, it takes me a little bit longer than I'd like to actually close stuff out. Yeah, why not? Seeing as we just had the explosion of the starport. Actually, I'm kind of wondering if some of the... Oh, give me a couple of moments of indecision here. They loaded up Bookworm's car in silence. The violence at Port Liberty had darkened what should have been a joyful occasion. At long last, Kayla was home. But it didn't feel the same. The corruption on Hyrule must have gotten worse during the time she'd been away. Kayla wondered about the papers she'd hidden away in the pocket of her robe, and shivered involuntarily. The inhabitants of Hyrule had long been ignorant to the cruelty of the universe. Blade's Edge was the place for such atrocity. Times were changing, and Kayla wondered about her own role in the future. Perhaps the shred of paper in her pocket was the key to preventing catastrophe. Vance sat in the front seat of the car next to Bookworm, so Kayla could stretch out in the back. Her aunt adjusted the radio before pulling out of this. Incidentally, anyone who can actually see the... let me zoom out and click here. There we go. For anyone that can see this, yes, I'm actually aware that I'm occasionally skipping a word. But I'm doing what I can. It's the gray matter thing. Let's see now. Kayla could stretch out in the back seat. Her aunt adjusted the radio before pulling out of the starport parking lot. News broadcasts were attributing the explosion to a malfunctioning defense satellite. But Kayla knew there was no malfunction. The cloaked being, Velkar, couldn't have survived the attack. It was now up to her to deliver the message. The green-haired woman must have left the extra bag to help her. Kayla wasn't surprised that the woman didn't want to get involved. It's hard to fight an opponent who could drop a satellite on your head at any time they wanted. Malfunction, Bookworm scoffed. Defense satellites point away from the surface. Do they think we're all stupid? Sure it looks that way, Kayla commented. Bookworm continued. It takes a powerful faction to carry out that kind of assassination. Even greater authority and influence required to cover it up so quickly. Something big is going on. But what? Vance looked over at their aunt but said nothing. I don't know who they were after, Bookworm said uneasily. I don't know who they were after, Bookworm said uneasily, but I'm sure glad we weren't in the way. The news report announced there were only minor injuries reported as a result of the blast. Since when is death a minor injury? Vance scoffed. Bookworm shook her head. Not if you look at it the way they do. The people that were vaporized in the blast can't call in to report anything. Anyone who is badly wounded isn't likely to be in any position to complain. It's an information society newsfeed. What do you expect? They probably had a hand in it anyway. Auntie, Kayla asked, can we talk about something else? Bookworm nodded slowly. Would you mind talking about the Psionic Research Institute? Kayla shrugged and stared out the window at the city. Some planets had beautiful and elegant spires reaching through the clouds. Not Hyrule. This planet had a more intricate history than most. There we go. Let me try that again. This planet had a more intricate history than most worlds, and the inhabitants had always taken great pride in their home. The tallest structures on the planet were 13 stories tall. Buildings extended deep within the planets, interconnected by vast transit systems. Most worlds had uniform architecture, but not here. The skyline of Hyrule cities consisted of a mass of mismatched sections from different historic eras. As each civilization fell, the conquerors rebuilt upon the remains. Each conqueror brought different building designs and materials. Many occupations didn't last long enough to finish their reconstruction. Each building was a geological record of Hyrule's history and the diversity of its many subcultures. The only notable exception was Port Liberty, which the current government had built completely. The starport blended histories and had a strange beauty of its own. Port Liberty lacked the offensive mosaic look of the other buildings. It had taken thousands of years for a culture to emerge that could mix local and off-world influence without offending anyone's eyes. Kayla, Bookworm said with concern, is something wrong? Sorry, I was just daydreaming. Vance turned around to face Kayla. What was it like at PRI? She shook her head. I'll tell you about it later. I have a lot on my mind and I don't feel like talking right now. Vance frowned. Okay, he said while mind speaking. What's wrong? It was terrible. Kayla shivered as she responded. I really don't want to think about it ever again. He nodded. Okay, I missed you and I just want to catch up on the last 3.5 years. There we go. He nodded. Oh wait, I just lost my place. Here we go. Okay, Kayla grinned. How's school been? Are the other kids still giving you a hard time? I don't want to talk about it. You've made your point. She sighed heavily. There's something I need to talk to you about, but not right now. I need your help with something. I've never been good with puzzles. Bookworm's better than I am. The darkness in Kayla's mind growled its disapproval. It didn't seem to want her aunt to be involved at all. Never mind, I'll figure it out myself. Vance smirked. I didn't say I wouldn't help. I was just saying that Bookworm's better at it than I am. It's her job after all. Kayla smirked back. I don't want to get involved. I don't want to get her involved. Can you at least tell me what it's about? I've never seen you take anything this seriously. Vance grumbled to himself as he turned around to face forward. Bookworm sighed. Well, Blair's not home yet. Is there anything special? Anywhere special you want to go? Or do you mind waiting at my place until she gets back? Kayla wrinkled her nose as she remembered the strange smell that permeated Bookworm's house. Under normal circumstances, it would be the last place she would want to go. On this day, however, there was a certain attraction to her aunt's house. Bookworm's nickname was more understatement than accurate. Her library was nearly as extensive as the Information Society's stockpile. Bookworm had most of... Okay, wow, here we go. We're starting to do that brain thing. Yay! Let's see if I can work my way through it here. There we go. Bookworm had read most of the books in her archives and even memorized a few. There were probably still a few ancient texts which he hadn't translated, but everyone needs a hobby. Each of these volumes had been loaded into a computer. Bookworm had other consoles which were connected to the vast information networks. She called her computer room the Harvest Center, and it was the heart of her information brokering business. Auntie, let's go to your place. I've been wondering how you run your searches. Kayla smiled as the darkness at the back of her mind whispered its approval. She racked her brain trying to remember Falcar's last words to her. She couldn't remember. She could remember. There we go. All she could remember was Sweater, 9, and Midnight Sun. If she talked much more, she'd be in danger of forgetting the rest. She spent the rest of the ride trying to remember the exact phrase and stayed quiet until Bookworm had led her into the harvest center. So, Bookworm asked, what do you want me to look up? You've never shown any interest before. I know you're up to something. The darkness in Kayla's mind spoke before she could stop it. Some of the people at PRI said info brokers can come up with some kind of meaning behind any random set of words. I didn't believe them, so they gave me 3 words to look up. I hope you don't mind. Bookworm looked at Kayla suspiciously. Okay, I've never refused a riddle. Were they nice enough to tell you what faction or planet it's specific to? Kayla shook her head. Bookworm touched her finger to her chin, which translated to a warm smile. Should I explain what I'm doing? Kayla grimaced. Last time you tried, you lost me. Bookworm nodded. What are they? Sweater, Midnight Sun, and 9. Bookworm chuckled. It's always sunny at midnight. Kayla gulped heavily. What does that mean? Bookworm laughed outright. You're familiar with the Midnight Fellowship? Kayla nodded. The Fellowship was an alliance of independent worlds which united to ensure their ability to remain neutral in the midst of galactic power struggles. The alliance only spanned about 20 inhabited worlds. I was quoting the founder of the Midnight Fellowship. He actually said, when a nation is at peace, it's always sunny at midnight. Bookworm made a strange clicking noise. Kayla wondered aloud, what was that noise for? I don't know that one. Amusement. Sorry about that. Then what does wear a sweater at 9 mean? Bookworm tilted her head to the left. What? It means it's cold at night, Vance yelled from the next room. Kayla growled angrily. I'm serious, Bookworm laughed. Vance is, however, correct. That's a perfectly good meaning. Here on Hyrule, however, it could mean something completely different. The word sweater would mean something very different to your mother. Valk doesn't wear sweaters anymore, but she sure used to. 9 could be anything, but I have the feeling it's a time of day. That was interesting, Kayla said. Well, I guess their joke was on me. Not so fast, Bookworm said as Kayla turned to walk out of the room. I've been doing this far too long to not realize when I'm being conned. But Auntie, don't even try that. Out with it. What's this all about? Vince walked to the doorway behind Kayla and listened quietly. Someone asked me to deliver a message for them, and I accepted. They didn't have time to tell me where to deliver it or when. They were killed in the blast. Bookworm nodded her head slowly. I'll tell you what it means, but it's not going to do you much good. Do you remember the exact phrasing? Kayla bowed her head. Not really. Bookworm started moving her arms around her while making deep whining noises. Her hand movements started with disgust, cycling through several others Kayla knew, some that looked familiar, and 1 or 2 she'd never seen before. Regardless of how you translate it, Bookworm was not pleased. The second part of that quote from the founder was from the founder of the Fellowship, but the first time I'm not sure. You helped me remember the second part, but I'm not positive the first part is either wear a sweater at 9 or wear a sweater to 9. Bookworm calmed herself before speaking. Which was it? Was it to 9? Sorry. If it was to 9, they're talking about Club Nth. If it was at 9, they're talking about the time of day. You don't even know what day you're supposed to meet them. Tomorrow. I guess I left that out, Kayla blushed. Vance giggled as Bookworm flailed her arms again. Bookworm lowered her head and brought her knuckles together. This motion had no direct translation, but the general meaning was, be quiet while I try to compose myself. It was Kayla said triumphantly. Velkar said to wear a sweater tomorrow at 9. Bookworm sat down at one of the keyboards and started typing. Auntie? Was Thelkar the only name you were given? Kayla nodded. She had overheard the green-haired woman's name, but wasn't willing to admit that she'd forgotten it. Bookworm was upset enough already. Vance walked the rest of the way into the room and stood next to Kayla. She must be looking up Thelkar, he commented. Auntie, Kayla whined, it's my responsibility. I said I'd do it. You will do no such thing, Bookworm scoffed. Now that I know who you're dealing with, you'll be lucky if I let you out of my sight. That bad? Vance asked. Can I see? He rushed over to look over Bookworm's shoulder. Hey, it says Selkar has special clearance. Bookworm sighed heavily. That's not what troubles me. My security isn't that remarkable. The listing for the organization that granted the clearance level is what's upsetting me. I've never heard of it. And that can't be good. Kayla gently scanned Bookworm. Her thoughts were fragmented, and the level of unease within her aunt was close to panic. What's wrong? Bookworm rolled her chair to one of the other consoles and started a search for the listed organization. Then she rolled to the third of her 4 terminals and began to type rapidly. Writing an advanced query? Vance asked. Bookworm shook her head. There's more to this than meets the eye. I'm adding a subroutine to gather data on both variables and run them through heart and soul. Kayla felt the importance of Bookworm's words, but didn't understand the reference. Vance apparently noticed her confusion and mind spoke an explanation. Heart and soul are her servers. One of them holds information on all the previous search results, and the other uses special software to try to find connections. The two of them try to put the puzzle together. Okay, Kayla thought in response. She didn't really understand, but as long as she got her answer, it didn't seem to matter much where it came from. Bookworm finished typing on the third computer and rolled herself back to the second system. She glanced briefly at the search results, then rolled back to the first computer. She opened the results window for her first search and looked through the list. She rolled her shoulders back and rolled her chair back over to the third console. I have to add a few more things to my extended search. Do you have anything else for me, Kayla? Kayla shook her head. I just want to know what I need to do. This is more important, Bookworm scolded. Go sit in the living room and make yourselves at home. This will take a while. Turn on the news and let me know if anything interesting happened today. Vance grumbled unhappily as he left the room. Kayla wrung her hands. Auntie, what does wear a sweater at 9 mean? Her aunt looked up from the terminal. Kayla felt a moment of confusion and then realized... There we go. Felt a moment of confusion and then realized as Bookworm remembered the initial question. You need to meet the contact somewhere at 9 o'clock. There are 2 potential meanings for the sweater part. They literally want you to wear one, or they want you to wear a disguise. I'm not sure what the significance of the Midnight Fellowship is. I'll have to think about that one. There's no real Fellowship influence here on Hyrule. Kayla wasn't happy with the answer, but she didn't seem to have a choice. She wandered into the living room where Vance was already watching the news. The media had conveniently forgotten about the explosion at Port Liberty. They reported on happenings within each of the factions present on the planet, new government changes, and sentient interest pieces, including sports. Kayla curled up next to her brother and tried to stay awake. Space travel could take a lot out of a person. The darkness within her stirred as she fought her losing battle against fatigue. The darkness sang to her sleepy mind as it had done so many times. Her shadow was dark and ominous, yet it could sing to her with the sweetest voice. The songs were as grim as they were beautiful. Michaela had grown fond of them over the years. The lines were fragmented pieces of a greater whole, and her inner darkness didn't seem to be able to decide on the correct order. When the last watcher forgets to see, only time can set him free. To worlds above and below, the eldest of the races go. Hunters fall upon the meek, for all of life death shall seek. When the last guardian stands alone, an empire is born of golden glow. Know the past remembers thee, golden one it's time to free. With each thread she does sew, linking worlds to and fro. Prophets follow. From 1 to 3, time's passage waits for thee. Shadows pass beyond the veil, and battles wage with tooth and nail. The verses followed her into her dreams. The downside of the strange songs were the strange dreams which usually followed. She dreamt of a golden spider capturing planets in its web. It moved from one world to the next, consuming each of them hungrily. Kayla ran from the nightmare spider, but it was too swift. When she turned to confront the beast, it exploded into countless smaller spiders which fled and hid on the uneaten planets that remained in the Great Web. Ah, break time! Yeah, why? There's still some people out there in theory. Yeah, there we go. That sounds about right. I'm gonna have to adjust the delay when I go to do this next time. It kind of sucks trying to talk to folks out there when I have a 30-second delay. That blows. But in the meantime, because my brain is now not wanting to cooperate worth shit, I'm probably gonna call this in a couple minutes. But yeah, it's a couple chapters. I'm not quite done with the third. There's a bit left to go. I could try and finish it up, but I'm not sure right now. It's getting gradually harder and harder with this. I actually hit that mental fatigue wall a little bit of a while ago. I can try and force my way through it or just pause at this point. We'll see. I should probably try to push my way through. Yeah. Let's see how much we technically have left in this chapter. Holy crap. Yeah, this is a long subsection. Yeah. It's... I don't know. My reading's probably going to go a bit to shit if I continue from here. That's kind of the disclaimer. Let's get back up to that breaking point if I can find it. But I'm thinking I might do a little better if I try to just force my way through, seeing as the whole point is to try and push my brain past what it wants to do. I've been doing this in part in Hangouts by going into longer and longer Hangouts and trying to stay longer. Shortly after the stroke, it was taking anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes before I started hitting the cognitive wall, and most of the stuff I was dealing with at that point was off air. Then when I started going back into on-airs, depending on what the topic was, I did it either quicker or slower, what have you. That cognitive wall is a real fucking pain in the ass, let me tell you. But seeing as I managed to deal with a whole fucking 10-hour hangout on my fucking channel the other day, apparently that mental stamina is building back up in terms of sitting and conversing, but in terms of trying to read or something like that, it's pretty shitty. Just trying to work on the book, I've been exhausting myself to the point of lunacy. I mean, initially I was working on, like, we'll talk at like 5, 6, 7 center paragraphs, and then I'd be exhausted, have to take a little bit of a break, and then go back to it. And I don't know. That's not optimum to say the least. I mean, it used to be that I'd sit down for anywhere from, I don't know, 10 to 18-hour sessions, sometimes even longer, just working on the damn book, which was always fun when somebody was like, well, I mean, what's the most you've ever written in a day? I'm like, well, when the day's like 30 hours long, it's a weird comparison, but okay. And then they'd be like, oh, yeah, bullshit. I'm like, yeah, you are sitting there writing for like 2, 3 hours. I'm writing for 10 or more. And I sure shit can't do that anymore. I don't know. Doing a hang at some point, just people sharing weird ass fucking dreams they've had could be fun. I write down some of mine. I've forgotten a lot of them though. But yeah, dreams can get trippy as fucking hell, man. Oh, do I risk hurting my little brain and going through this further or not? Either way, I'm going to get some fucking serious ass sleep when I do get done messing with this shit. Oh wow, it's like almost 2 a.m. Shit. I didn't realize that. Yeah. Sorry. Good grief. Sometimes I think the dog shedding is just, I'm inhaling dog fur sometimes. It gets kind of messy around here sometimes. If I can get my throat to clear up and give my eyes a couple seconds break, maybe I can finish this chapter. Incidentally, as a footnote, I don't know if Blue's out there watching this or not, but going back to the whole thing with the DNA scan that was earlier in the, early in chapter 1. Yeah, the results aren't quite wrong. The thing is that she's never actually been through a proper DNA scan, and part of that is why her mother used to work security, so she could make sure that there was never an issue with the results. But with one of her two mothers, Flair, because she has two mothers, there's Flair and Valk, and they are a Dodge-Mare couple, which basically is the equivalent in an alien language of gay. The actual proper translation's in here somewhere, but yeah, it's that's the thing is her and her brother technically have two mothers. There's a lot to it, and that comes out more later in the book, of course. But in terms of that scanner, yeah, there's some weird shit in her genome. Now, due to the fact that she has two mothers on some levels, it should be fucking obvious to anyone that she's a result of cloning on some level. But the assumption, for her at least, was that she was cloned with sample DNA from the two mothers. Not that there was something more fucked up and nefarious going on in terms of her creation. Or development design, however you want to put it, in terms of the cloning process. That, and as is found out very late into book one, or actually I think I covered in book one, the machinery, so to speak, the device that's in charge of the cloning has a AI that has biological components that's been being held captive for a long fucking time, and it's generally not a good idea to put a hostile captive AI in charge of a cloning process, just saying. There we go. Well, I got 5 zeros, so Clockwork and him and a town drunk and somebody else. Probably not Sabella. She probably went over to watch a Drags thing, which incidentally, some of y'all might want to check that out. I don't know, because that's probably more interesting than this shit, because it's a bunch of folks from the community that are first meeting in the real world, so. Actually, in her case, what you, what you later find out is that there were two samples that were actually used, and the DNA of these two samples were combined together in order to create her, and in order to allow these barely compatible forms of DNA to actually work properly together, they had to put in some markers and whatnot, and some strands from Gyron genetics in order to just make it even possible. They needed a way to bond the DNA from the two different samples together. Oh, Sabella went to bed. Cool. Good on her. Unfortunately, I can't really watch that while doing this. Okay, there we go. Now when we last left off, weird dreams. There we go. Let's see if we get my brain back in this. Vance thought to her, "Wake up, Kayla. You're having a nightmare." Shadows passed beyond the veil in battles waged with tooth and nail. Kayla whispered as she slowly became aware of her surroundings. Vance was watching her with a strange look in his eyes. "I heard that," he said. Kayla looked at him in confusion, not realizing what she'd said. "You heard what?" "Later," Vance grumbled. "It's almost time to go home." Flair slowly backed into the living room while continuing her conversation with Bookworm. "Ishtal, are you sure?" Ishtal was Bookworm's given name. She had earned her nickname in her youth and kept it as a professional name after starting her business as an information broker. "Of course I'm sure. Would I joke about things this serious? Something needs to be done, but there's no way I'll let her do it." Her aunt must have found something. Bookworm's speech pattern disturbed Kayla. She closed her eyes and focused on her aunt's voice. She scanned her mind for images instead of words. It was harder to do deep scans, but that was the only way to get a straight answer. An unintentional surface scan on Flair had already revealed Kayla was the subject of the conversation. As momentary slur there. My brain is tired. Let's keep powering through this crap. As Bookworm entered the room, Kayla found the image she was looking for. It was a list of names with symbols next to them. She frantically checked her pocket, but the crumpled slip of paper was still there. Kayla decided it was time to look at the paper she'd received from Delcar. Not only was it Was it a list as Selkar had indicated, but it also matched the list Bookworm had been thinking of. Vance, did anyone go through my pockets while I was asleep? Vance shook his head. No, Bookworm called Mom into the Harvest Center as soon as she got here. Kayla frowned. There was no way to keep Bookworm and her family uninvolved. Her aunt had already found the list herself and most likely knew a lot more about it than Kayla did. Flair was not happy with Bookworm. If the message doesn't get to its destination, who's going to stop them? Who can stop them? Exactly my point, Flair. Bookworm's voice was slowly rising. Who can stop them? I certainly can't think of anyone. I've never heard of Project Acorn before. I doubt they can do much either. What if they can do something, and we don't give them the message? Maybe they're just trying to get their people to safety. Do you want to have a hand in their deaths? Bookworm put her hands on her hips. Unmistakable body language for any species. Flair, my name is on the list. Flair opened her mouth ready to fire off her next volley, but said nothing. Bookworm nodded. Flair lowered her head. Who else is on it? Bookworm shook her head. I'm not going to discuss this now. Who? Am I on it? What about Valk and the kids? Bookworm crossed her arms in front of her with her hands on her shoulder, then leaned forward slightly. Kayla absentmindedly handed the list to Vance, who looked worried. Watching Bookworm cringing away from Flair's anger seemed strangely comical. Bookworm was rapidly giving ground to the fiery redhead, who was almost a foot shorter and 80 pounds lighter. Flair had always been small in size, but never in spirit. Who else is on the damn list, Hishtal? Bookworm backed away from the other woman. Flair, don't make me do this in front of the kids. Oh, wait. Sorry. Bookworm, yeah. Flair, don't make me do this, not in front of the kids. Hishtal Van, Vance recited aloud. Valkyr Vasala. What did you say? Flair interrupted, turning to face Vance. I only have the letter V on this page, Vance said with feigned sorrow. Give me that, Flair demanded as she advanced towards Vance and Kayla. No, Kayla growled. It's mine. They gave me the list to deliver to someone tomorrow, and I'm going to do it. It's my responsibility. Bookworm shook her head. You're the only one of us who isn't on the list, and you're not getting at it if I have anything to say about it. I'll deliver it myself if I have to. Let's open this all the way so I don't actually burn the lid there again. That would be nice. Okay. Kayla shook her head. You can't. They know what I look like. There are more than one of them at the starport. They'll be watching for me. If you want to do something, find out what the list means. Bookworm's arms returned to her hips. I already learned more about that list than I ever wanted to know about anything in my life. Excuse me, Vance interrupted. Would somebody please tell me what you're all talking about? Kayla took the list back from Vance. The darkness within her whispered secrets too softly to be understood. Bookworm held her hands in front of her and made a pushing gesture. Everyone sit down and I'll tell you what I do know. Vance and Kayla were already sitting. Bookworm seemed eager to get away from Flair. Seemed eager to get as far away from Flair as possible. Flair walked over to the large chair and sat down. Bookworm fidgeted nervously as she spoke. I've seen traces of the list's existence before, but I didn't know it was part of an actual list. I come across many names in my search results. The final stage of the search is to decide which references are pertinent. Most of the results are garbage. Almost 10 years ago, I had to reprogram my computers to ignore certain information. Some of the factions started adding alphanumeric strings to names. Organizations track people all the time, so I didn't think much of it at first. Roughly 6 years ago, I realized that different factions were using the exact same code. This seemed significant, but I wasn't able to crack it. I spent a year or two trying, but eventually I gave up. The list is enormous. The names aren't important. The codes are. Now that I found the master list, I understand the codes. The list constantly changes as each of the factions makes modifications. The Midnight Fellowship seems to be the only major faction that is unaware of the list. Flair smirked. Can we hurry along? Okay, Bookworm continued. Most of the characters don't mean anything. With the help of heart and soul, I've deciphered the essential elements. I stumbled across the significance of the first three numbers a while ago, but they seem to be there to confuse the curious. They're numerological representations of the name. For example, the first three numbers in my code are 5, 2, and 7, which are the values of my first name, last name, and the total. This part uses Pythagorean numerology. The second set of three digits indicates the individual's allegiance. The first two letters are an abbreviation for the faction name. The third is the numerological value of the faction name using Caladian numerology. If they're not a member of any faction, the first two characters are numbers and the third is a letter. I don't know the significance of non-faction code yet. The non-faction code, there we go. Missed a word again. And we still have a couple people listening. I'll keep going. It was obvious Bookworm was getting excited as she continued explaining, but Kayla could tell Flair was growing anxious for answers. She gently transmitted a thought to Bookworm, urging her to hurry up, while Flair was still listening. I don't know what the next two sets of characters represent, but I would guess they indicate rank and level of security clearance. These sections are zeroed out if there is no faction affiliation. The two sets after the dash seem to be notes pertaining to occupation, ability, and potential threat levels. Bookworm, Flair growled. The three characters after the second dash are the ones that worry me most. It appears to be a countdown. 3 X's indicate they're dead. It lists assassins as X13, as Valk is in that group. The 7 and 13s don't seem to decrease, but the rest do until X's replace them. Bookworm shifted uneasily. I believe there's a Terran expression about one's number coming up. Flair nodded. What of it? Bookworm lowered her head. I'm a 7, so I'm safe for now. But you're an 8. In another month, you'll have skipped over 7 and become a 6. Within 3 months, you'll be a 5. By the end of next year, you'll be a 1. Ones don't live very long. Flair gaped at Bookworm. You're telling me that's some kind of hit list? Bookworm nodded. They're systematically killing off any independents. They're eliminating potential threats and making it all look like coincidence. They're cutting the foundations out from under the smaller organizations. They're targeting independent technology and weapons dealers right now. The next group to be targeted will be weaker organizations. After that, they'll go after the weapon manufacturers and developers. The 4s are stronger mercenary groups, and the 5s are independent shipyard employees. The 6s are former faction members. The 7s are mostly faction members with questionable loyalty. You and Vance are 8. Kayla's not on the list at all. 8s and 9s are all private individuals with no discernible connection to any group. The 10s and 11s, when I started trying to figure this out. The 10s were 11s when I started trying to figure this out. The current 11th group is a very small exclusive list which includes people who are normally considered unstoppable. Unstoppable? Flair snickered. I've never met anyone who was unstoppable. Bookworm tapped her nose and tilted her head, indicating a large grin. Vance would remember some of the 11s from his history classes. I thought most of them were dead. According to the list, Gregor is still alive. Vance gasped. Cyberop Gregor? I thought he was a myth. Bookworm shrugged. So did I. But there are a few other legends on the list, too. Most of them are 11s, like Lady Darkseid. There's even one legendary 13 that you may have heard of. Vance leaned forward. Who? Flair snickered. Do we have to get into this now? Bookworm ignored Flair while responding to Vance. Barth Lasson is on the list. It looks like he lives somewhere in Hyrule. The legendary assassin Shavar. No, Vance said in wonder. He'd have to be over 400 years old by now. Bookworm signaled another grin. According to the information I found, Shavar was the founder of Project Acorn. So Kayla met one of his pupils earlier. Maybe they do have a chance of doing something about this. So, Kayla said, Velkar was an assassin? Trained by the most infamous assassin of all time, Vance added. I went through Project Acorn members and had almost a... Sorry. I went through the Project Acorn members and almost a third of them have 3 X's now. The only member with known connections on Hyrule is the owner of a diner called Gustasio's on the north side of town. Since we're dealing with assassins, the sweater mark was referring to wearing a disguise. I looked into Gustasio's diner. Their logo is a clock with only one hand, which points to 9. So we know when and where. The Midnight Fellowship reference is probably to verify who you are, Flair grumbled. I don't want Kayla going. She won't, Bookworm said in conclusion. I'm the one who understands the code, so I have to be the one to go. Flair scowled. Hishto, you've never fought a day in your life. I'm not going to let you go any... I'm not going to let you go any more than I'd let Kayla risk her neck. Vance cleared his throat loudly. I have a question. Bookworm and Flair to face him. What? They asked in unison. Is their food any good? Where? Bookworm asked. What are you talking about? Flair snapped. Gustasio's. It's a diner, isn't it? Is their food any good? Why don't we go there for dinner tomorrow night? That should attract less attention, and at least we'll have something to do while we're there. Kayla smiled warmly at Vance. So we should all risk our necks? Flair scoffed. Well, Kayla interrupted, Belcard did say the best place to hide is in a crowd. Flair sighed heavily before continuing. I suppose it'd be less suspicious if we all went in. But I still don't like it. I feel like a fly that was invited into the spider's lair. Has it occurred to either of you that we'll be eating food that was cooked by people employed by assassins? Bookworm signaled another grin. Well, when you put it that way, it doesn't sound very appetizing. A high-pitched tone echoed through the house, followed by a loud beeping noise. Bookworm ran into her computer room without a single gesture. Wait here, Flair instructed as she followed Bookworm. No. Wow, it looks like I left out a period. Oh well, fuck it, it's already printed. I don't know what the point of adding it in here is, saying is it's going to have to go to the master, but fuck it, I'll deal with that tomorrow, I guess. Thanks, Vance, Kayla said with a smile. For what? I wanted to go too. I might have helped, but it's for my own self. Thanks, Vance, Kayla said with a smile. For what? He replied. I want to go too. I might have helped, but it's for my own selfish reasons. Vance stuck out his tongue to reinforce his point. Fine, then I guess I don't owe you one. Now that they're gone. Is the list the only thing you were given? Kayla shook her head and patted the small satchel the baggage girl had left for her. What's in it? She shrugged. I haven't looked yet. It's probably a sweater. Well, Vance said anxiously, open it up. Let's see what's in it. No, they could come back any time. Let's wait until we get home. Vance frowned darkly. Can't you scan them to tell how busy they are? I'd rather scan it to find out why I can't remember anything before I turn 12. Kayla sighed heavily. The darkness whispered its own answer. Only the children of the past can ensure salvation asked. I'm having trouble concentrating. It's acting up again, Vance scowled. I would go away after you got your telepathy under control. Kayla shook her head as she fought back tears of frustration. I wish you would leave me alone. The darkness whispered to her. Shadows follow at the rear, watching as the time draws near. It's getting worse. Made peace with my shadow, but it still scares me sometimes. I think it's getting stronger. I can hear it more clearly now. You never understood it before. Even at the research center, right? Maybe it's fatigue. Still, the travel takes a lot out of you. I don't think so. It's been giving me nightmares lately. Vance looked worried. What's it saying? Does it tell you to do things that they find it while you were at the center? Or am I still the only one that knows? Kayla shivered. Just you. They didn't find it. Sometimes it wants to do or say things through me, but mostly it just mutters. Tonight it's singing, but it's not making any sense. Singing? Well, it's almost like chanting, but there's a rhythm to it. Can you sing it? Kayla smirked. I don't want to. Just sing it to me, he mind spoke. Kayla closed her eyes and listened for the darkness, but it was silent. It's not saying anything now. Great, now that I want to say something, it's quiet. It sings the same song every time, but it keeps mixing it up, moving around lines and phrases. I feel like I'm supposed to remember it, but I just don't. Keep your eyes closed and try a little longer. Kayla could hear faint rummaging noises as Vance spoke. She opened her eyes to see Vance rifling through the small bag. Hey, you tricked me! It wasn't worth it. It's nothing but a bunch of useless junk. Computer chips in hard plastic cases, tools, chip readers, and stuff like that. Hey, wait a minute, what's this? He withdrew a 9-inch long cylinder mounted on a small flat disc from the bag. It was nearly 3 inches around and gradually rounded at the top. I sure hope it isn't used. I bet I know what the buttons are for. It's a bug finder. My mother had one just like it, Kayla growled indignantly. Vance looked at Kayla and raised an eyebrow. Valk has bugs? Kayla balled her hand into a fist and pulled her arm back. Give me one good reason why I shouldn't smack you. I remember what you said when you first saw one. Kayla lowered her head quickly, but kept her eyes on Vance. I see you grinning, he jeered. I remember you showed it to me. You thought it was gross and then put it back in the wrong drawer. Your mother asked if you'd seen her bug detector, and you said no. I also remember how hard you laughed when she described it. You're worse than I am. Val would have had a fit if she knew why you were laughing. Something else has been bothering me. What? The accident. I still can't remember what happened. Vince's expression changed from concern to curiosity. I remember what happened, but I wasn't there. I wouldn't have anything to do with it and was completely opposed to it. I hold Nana Garan responsible. That's mean, Kayla scolded. There was a playful look in Vance's eyes which troubled her. He was playing a game, and his eyes hinted at the secrets behind his words. Why can't I remember it? I know Flair and Nana Garan threw... I know Flair said Nana Garan threw herself over me and died protecting me, but I don't remember her. You don't remember her protecting you at all? Vance said as a crooked grin inched across his face. Kayla's shadow shared a brief memory with her, but it didn't help. She'd seen a glimpse of Nana Garan diving on top of her before. The setting and circumstances were all wrong. Kayla's skin was even the wrong color. In the memory, her skin was a rich golden brown. She remembered her hands being very small, like those of a very young child. Kayla's family life had never been... Kayla's family life... God damn it, here we go, the brain completely fucked it up. Kayla's family life had never seemed real. There was something false about each of her family members, but Vance wouldn't lie to her. With telepathic abilities, she'd know if he did. Vance loved her, but his love seemed to go deeper than that between brother and sister. Kayla didn't have the kind of bond with him she would have expected to have with a brother. There was a strange chemistry between them, but neither of them could admit it. Flair and Valk were supposed to be Dodge Mare, but neither of them showed any affection for the other. Now that she had control of her telepathic abilities and could feel the difference between truth and lies, some of the family secrets might start to unravel. Vance's answers were sometimes cryptic enough to let Kayla know he couldn't say what he wanted to. Whenever he had to choose his words to disguise the truth, his eyes danced as they were now. She knew he wanted to say more, but couldn't. Vance's eyes darkened as he lowered his gaze to the floor. I wish I could have prevented it. Kayla shivered, the sound of sorrow in her brother's voice. Ask him what he couldn't prevent, her shadow taunted. Kayla shook her head, answering the inner voice. It wasn't Vance's doing. He did what he could to be honest while keeping an old promise. Kayla knew about the promise, but not why he made it. It wouldn't do any good trying to get information out of her brother. He was true to his word, and she respected him for it. I just want to go home, Kayla said with a sigh. The smell of old books always gives me a headache. Vance shrugged. I like it. Kayla glanced at the plugged it. Okay, now I can't fucking breathe. I think it's time for a soda. Hey, Jackie. We're a little ways in, not too far. Oh wait, your copy should be showing up, what, the 17th, I think it is? 15th to 17th, roughly? Ah. Yeah, I'm trying to amend my fucking brain here. And I'm well past cognitive wall, so this is pushing like hell right now. Ugh. Ugh. It's, I don't know. This is the thing, is that you have those two sides, verbal, nonverbal, and trying to mend the proverbial fence between that connection between the two of them is a little rough. I've only fallen out and had no idea what I read once so far, and that was kind of nice, but I still keep kind of losing things, and I'm reading more from memory than what's in front of me at times, which is also a little tricky. San Francisco. And I'm on page what? Let me find that. Let's see, now that's... screw it. Hopefully it's not too much further. I only need to get as far as them heading back after Bookworm figures out her shit. And then I can call it for now. Here we go. It gives me a headache. I like it. Referring to the smell of books. There we go. Caleb glanced at the bug detector in his hand. Oh, there we go. Let's try and do the delivery on this right. Kayla said with a sigh. The smell of old books always gives me a headache. Vance shrugged. I like it. Kayla glanced at the bug detector in his hands. Oh, really? Vance packed everything back into the bag. Okay, I deserve that one. Why do you think they left the bag? It's useless to you. Maybe I'm supposed to give it to the contact at Gastasios? You know, there has to be a tracking device somewhere in there. It wouldn't surprise me if there was. Vance cocked his head to the side. You've changed a lot over the last 3.5 years. I almost didn't recognize you at the starport. Kayla's eyes narrowed as she studied him. Really? He nodded. You look good. Really? Kayla asked again, skeptically. Vance grinned. Get it over with. What? I know you're going to make a joke at my expense. Go ahead and get it over with. Vance shook and said, no, I wasn't. You filled out nicely. You used to be all gangly and awkward, but now you look very feminine. Oh yeah, I'm fat, Kayla thought as Kayla thought she saw where he was going and was prepared to cut him off at the pass. You can't outrun me, and I can still beat you. We looked both sad and confused. No, I really meant it. Kayla was skeptical. Thanks. Vance seemed to be studying her. You're telepathic now. Maybe you can find out more about the accident that way. I know you have to run off and save the world tomorrow, but there will be time for other things. If you find out why it happened, please tell me. Kayla paused to wonder why Vance was mind speaking. Let's go home, Fleur said as she entered the room. Tomorrow's going to be a big day, and we're going out for dinner tomorrow night. Kayla could feel Flair's emotions, and the strongest of them was determination. Is something wrong? Why did you two run off after that beeping noise? It's getting late, Flair said. She could feel the answer weighing heavily on Flair's mind. A featherlight scan showed her the truth. The rankings on the list had shifted dramatically. Flair didn't seem to understand the meaning of the change, but Kayla could tell it wasn't good. Can I go and say goodbye to Bookworm first? Kayla had ulterior motives. Her aunt would understand what had happened. I don't think that's a good idea, Flair said with a sigh. She's very busy. The list changed all at once, and she wants to find out what happened. The copy of the list you have is useless now. Vance and I are now 4s. Bookworm's a 5. Valk's a 7. We don't know what the change means, but the highest number on the list is a 9 now. That doesn't sound good, Vance commented warily. Flair stood motionless, deep in thought for a few moments before continuing. Let's just head home. It's been a long day. Kayla shivered involuntarily. She'd overheard Flair's thoughts. They had much less time than Bookworm had first guessed. She stared out the car window silently during the ride home. The streets were barren except for one dark silhouette, walking with a group of children. Kayla's shadow seemed restless, but spoke only once during their journey home, and then fell deathly silent. Its words haunted her during the ride, and later followed her into her dreams. Hunters fall upon the meek, for all of life death shall seek. And that should be the end of that chapter. Yay. And 4 and stopping. Yay. Managed to power my way through that with only minor brain going, getting through the process of it. Okay, let's close out of this shit, and I'll worry about that missing period at some other point. This is kind of the thing is, it doesn't matter how many times you edit, there's always something that slips through. And actually, I think the copy that she uses is slightly different than the one I'm even reading from here, so. Anyway, we'll stop at 4. Maybe I'll do some more reading at some point, but where the hell's the... There we go. I don't know. I guess I'll save that one fucking period. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to call it a night for the moment, and if y'all want to hold tight, I may see about actually starting up a hangout after this. I don't know. I guess all the folks out there in California are probably busy as hell just goofing off with each other, so. Anyway, y'all have a good night, and I'm taking this shit down, and I'll decide whether I'm coming back up in a few or not. I'll see what Drag's up to. Anyway, catch y'all later.